Okay, good morning. We continue Sefer Shoftim, Perek Tes Zayin, Pasuk Yud Zayin. Delilah, after her fourth attempt to extract the truth out of Shimshon, is finally going to get it. So in Pasuk Yud Zayin, Vayaged lo eskol libo, and he tells her everything that's on his heart. Vayomer lo, and he says to her, Moira lo ola al roshi, a razor has never come upon my head. Ki nisir elikim animi bet animi, because I am a nazir from the womb of my mother. Not just a nazir, I'm a nazir to God, which we'll see is important. In gulachti, if I will have my hair shorn, v'sor mimeni kochi, my strength will leave me. V'cholisi, and I will be sick, weak. V'yisi kechol ha'adam, and I will now be like everyone else. Okay. Interesting point from the last pasuk that I forgot to mention, so I don't want this to let this go. It says that in pasuk Tes Zayin, it says that she tormented him, and his soul, felt like dying. So from the rabbis learned that it seems that he felt terrible, but she didn't. She didn't feel like she was going to die, right? In other words, you could have a bad marriage, things are miserable, you want to die. The wife's making me crazy, she's nudging me, I want to die. But we only found that he feels so terrible. What about her? So the sages tell us that while she was tormenting her husband, she was engaged in adultery. So, if you're already having an affair with somebody else, you can make your husband's life miserable, but you're not miserable. You got your life taken care of. So we see again that once a person makes a breach in their defenses against the Yetzer Hara, right? You produce an insatiable power and passion for Averis, and one sin leads to another. So even though Delilah originally was free from any lust, she committed eventually adultery. So
and he was aware of that?
No, I don't know. It doesn't appear that he was aware of this. Now again, this is the second time it says Kihetzika. She afflicted him, she tormented him. His first wife was the same issue. First time he gave away a secret, but we could say the first time, we could say, okay, it was part of a plan to be able to kill a lot of Plishtim. But here, there was no reason to say this. This was something that should not have been said. So, and again, this is like the second strike, as it were. However way you want to learn that first strike is, first strike is with the first wife, as we'll see. Remember, we said he went after his eyes incorrectly, or he went to Asa, whatever it is. But this is definitely the major mistake here. There's no way he should have told his secret to her, no matter how difficult it was. And again, you see that it wasn't easy to get him to give the secret away. It took 4 tries. So the HR used everything in its bag of tricks via Delilah till he finally gave in, but indeed was successful eventually. So now let's take a look at some of the nuances in Pasuk Yud Zayin. It says, Vayaged lo eskol libo. He tells over everything that's in his heart. So the Malbim notices that he says he was seduced like a dove is seduced. And he gave her the answer, even though she only asked one question, he gave her the answer to both questions. He answered where his strength came from. He says it comes from the Nazirus. It comes from the fact that I am a Nazir. And he also explained how he can be controlled by shaving off his hair. So in the earlier times he said, and if you do this, I'll be like one of the people. Means I'll be like a unique one of the people. But now he says, I will be kechol ha'adam. I will be like any person. And again, he was always careful never to lie. The first times he said, I'll be like one of the people, meant this, I'll be a unique person, which was true. But now he tells the truth, I'll be like any other person, meaning I will be quite weak. Now, as well, when it uses the word vayaged, that's one way of saying to relate, to tell. There's another word in Hebrew for that, and it's called vayomer, and he said. As it says in the pasuk before, Tezvav, she said to him. So, and if you look at other times, if you look at the 3 times before when he answered her, let's say back in pasuk Zayin, it says, Vayomer eleha Shimshon. Shimshon said to her the first time he answered. Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayomer eleha, he speaks to her the second time. You have 3 times it says, and the third time in pasuk Yud Gimel, Vayomer eleha. But over here it doesn't say Vayomer, it says Vayaged lo. So obviously that's something. So the Malbim says, well, you know, it's more like telling everything. Well, Reb Tzadok learns the word Amira. Amira means when you tell someone, you're telling them, he told ill, if you would bind me with this, if you do this. Amira is relating something that's actionable. It's a course of action. And go ahead and try it. Go ahead and bind me with ropes. You know, he tells her, like sometimes you tell someone, okay, go ahead. And he says to her in a way that you can act on what I am saying. Vayaged means I'm telling you something that's not actionable upon. In other words, something that I don't want you to do. That's one issue. You find as well in Parshas Yisro, Rashi points out that Amira is a Loshon Raka. It's a very soft language. While Vayaged is a strong language. When Moshe had to offer the Torah to the Jewish people, he went to the men and women. Hashem told them to go separately. And it says, the expression of Amira to the women and Haggadah to the men. Where Haggadah is, to the women you speak softly, but to the men you have to speak hard, and Rashi uses the words Dvarim Hakoshim Kegidim. Words that are as hard as a gid. A gid, a sinew. So an interesting wording that's used over there. You have Haggadah as well. Haggadah as well is, I mean, something you have to speak strongly. It's not when you say over the Haggadah, you just don't say it softly. You got to be strong. You got to be forceful. This is an important message. It's the most important thing I can ever tell you the whole year long. But the idea of a gid, the word gid reminds us of the word gid hanoshe, which was the nerve that Yaakov was injured with when he fought the angel, which we are prohibited to eat. And Gid reminds us of that. That was Yaakov's weak point. So now he's using the same word of Vayaged, like the word Gid, to show that Shimshon was like giving away his Achilles heel. He was now giving away his weak point. This would give it all away. And what was really critical, to really think about it, how did Shimshon know that the source of his strength lied in the holiness of his being a Nazir? How did he know that it wasn't, let's say, from his personal greatness that Hashem infused him with this special strength? So you have to say, as we said before, that Shimshon was quite a humble person, and he reasoned if his mother told him that he had to stay away from wine and instructed him to be a Nazir, he probably figured out that that status of being a Nazir was the only reason for his great power. And what Shimshon either didn't realize or just threw caution to the wind was he didn't realize that that Nazir status was what protected him from sinning the whole time. That's what protected him, being that Nazir. And as Reb Tzadok points out, at the beginning of his career, that when he first attained that Ruach HaKodesh, that spirit, the divine spirit, that means he eradicated his evil inclination. Now, Shimshon figured though, that once I've done that, I don't have to worry about my Yetzer Hara anymore. It's gone. I already have a high level of Ruach HaKodesh, and I'll never have to worry about the Yetzer Hara. So, you know what? Maybe now I'll make an exception. Big, big mistake. He had to realize that that was the only thing that kept him out of trouble, and now he's going to head for all kinds of problems. So, Pasuk Yud Ches. Vatera Delila, and Delila saw ki higid lo es kol libo. She saw that he revealed everything that was in his heart. She could tell that he was saying the truth.
She said that she heard.
I'm sorry. Vatera, she saw, not she heard. She saw it was the truth. How was it that she saw it was the truth? So Rashi says, and other Meforshim say, trying to find exactly the spot over here, that Nikarav Divrei Emes. You could tell, she could tell that he was telling the truth. In other words, sometimes you just know when someone is telling you the truth. You could tell by the way they say it and everything, you could just tell that they're telling the truth. That's what Rashi says. We'll come back to that in a minute. The Radak gives two interpretations over here, and very interesting. He brings from the rabbis the following. The Gemara says, Yodas Haisa Oisa Horasha'ah. This wicked woman knew, but also tzaddik, about this tzaddik, that he would not say God's name in vain. Now, where do you see this? Because he said in Pasuk Yud Zayin, he says, a Nazir Elokim ani. I'm a godly Nazir. He said Hashem's name. And if he was lying, he wouldn't say such a lie. A tzaddik wouldn't say God's name in vain. Right? Since he said, I'm a Nazir Elokim, must be he's telling the truth. That's one answer. Another answer the Radak brings is that he was giving the right reason, because he says that my strength will go away from me. And he didn't say I will be like a unique person. So he's saying my strength, right? He says, my strength will go away. So she figures, now he's talking a little different. He really is, remember, he never lied. She knew one thing about him, he would never lie. And every time he justified it. It wasn't a lie, it wasn't a lie. But now when he's saying, I will be like everyone else and I will have no strength, well, at that point, then there's no question. He doesn't lie. If he doesn't lie, he's telling the truth at this point as well. Every other time he had, a white lie, this and that, but here clearly he's telling the truth, so that she understood that. She also, Rabbi explains also, because he answered both questions and not just one of them. And if he wanted to lie, he would have been talking about the one issue and not going back to the original issue that he was skirting around the whole time. And again, since she knew he wasn't a liar, then it must be he's telling the truth. So anyway, she realizes she's got the truth now. Now, very interesting to realize who he is over here, right? We quoted that Radak and said she knew about this tzaddik. She knew this tzaddik wouldn't say God's name in vain. Right? So very interesting that the rabbis are saying that she still, and obviously it was so, she was still using the term that he was a tzaddik to describe him even after everything that happened. After all the mistakes he made, right? The term tzaddik is given to a person, not easily. And a tzaddik is someone who keeps the entire Torah down to the last detail. So you see that he is still considered a tzaddik. Now, in spite of everything, it's interesting. So you figure, well, if he's still a tzaddik, how is he going to make a mistake now? So some of the commentaries say that the tragedy of Shimshon was that for some people, being a tzaddik is a very great letdown. For someone who had reached the level of Ruach HaKodesh, receiving the divine inspiration, that means, as we said in Lutzado's work of Mesilas Yesharim, there's different levels you go to, and the higher levels are Chasidus and Ruach HaKodesh, which are beyond the level of a tzaddik. So now he's going down to the level of a tzaddik. As King Solomon uses the words, there isn't a tzaddik in the world who does not sin. When you're down to the level of a tzaddik, then you're capable of sinning. Now, halavai, we wish we would be a tzaddik. But when you're on such a high level that he was at, of Ruach HaKodesh, to go down to the level of a tzaddik means a tzaddik is a wonderful person, but then can sin. So he is, even though he is sinning, he is a great, great person. He's a great person. Okay. So, and it's interesting that she could still tell that he was a tzaddik, and the rabbis would write it. In other words, her estimation was still correct, and the rabbis wrote it to that effect. Okay, we could skip the Kriyuk.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it possible that tzaddik being judged differently?
Oh yes, yes. We were going to talk about that. God judges tzaddikim meticulously.
That's why.
And yeah, you make a little mistake, you get it big time because you got a lot more responsibility. Moshe, everybody. You know, because when a tzaddik makes a mistake, it's a bigger mistake. It's much weightier. So that's why everything we're learning about Shimshon, and the last thing we're going to read when we finish with Shimshon next week, that Reb Tzadok says, you know, you can't look at him like any character out of a book. You have to realize he's an unbelievable tzaddik, and the criticisms that are being leveled against him is appropriate for the level of who he is. And halavai, we would be making his averos. His averos are our mitzvahs. Okay, so you have to understand that, yes, it's the tzaddik. Hashem is very particular about the smallest thing. You're going to see he really didn't do anything so terrible, as you'll see in a minute.
Rabbi, it also says here another reason why she knew he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Was because she could see his hair was never cut. It must have been really long. So
yeah,
she could see that.
That would seem to indicate that. Okay, good. Now, so we're in Shul Pasuk Yuches. Vatishlach, she sends word, Vatikrin calls Lasarne Plishtim to the governors. She's so sure she goes to the governors now. So the governor says, listen, we've already heard you. She sends someone and calls for the governors. Lamor says, Alu apam, come up this time. Now here's a Kri and a Ksiv coming up, where it's written one way and you read it another way. Kihigid, now it's written Lamed Hey, which means Kihigid La, because he said to her. But it's read Li, said to me. So why is that? So it could be her message to the messenger was, he said to me. When the messenger came to the governors, he said to her. This is the messenger talking. But he told me, as call libo, everything in his heart. The governors came themselves, so they were sure she had a good read on this. Vayalu hakesef biyodam, and they brought the money in their hands. That's also an important piece of information. Again, at the end of the day, it was the money. It was the money that started it off, and it's the money now. And she probably wanted to make sure to have the money. Got the money, I got the goods, and she'll give it over. And that's the descent. Again, this is not an unusual scenario that doesn't play that plays itself over when you're dealing with wives that are not righteous, right? Again, Radak summed it up best when he brought from the rabbis that this wicked one knew about this tzaddik, right? She was wicked. She turned wicked. She was good, but then went wicked. Went wicked because of the money. And how often do you have instances where wives tear husbands down because of money? Because of money, they tear their husbands down. So here it was the governors that offered her the money, but and they can push their husbands to be workaholics and to buy them a better house and better this, the better that, and ultimately it destroys the man. It destroys the man. So again, this is a classic. Now we're not saying that all Jewish women are bad, but this one example of a bad wife. This is the one. This is the one that totally finished off her husband, and ultimately was because of the money. Ultimately, was because of the money. Okay, what plans he ultimately wanted to have, we don't know. We don't know what his plan. Remember, just like he had shtick the first time with the first wife, he was able to wreak a lot of havoc. Obviously, he probably wanted to get something going.
But we said he was in hiding now, wasn't he?
Yeah, for a while. But you never know when he'd come back. We don't know what other plans he would have had. All we know is what she did to him. It could very well be the fact that he wasn't acting out any plans anymore. He kind of was coasting. And when you coast, there's no such thing as coasting. Either you're going up or you're going down. So if he wasn't going up, his wife would be eminently capable of taking him down. Okay, so what happens? You test. So the governors are in the room next door. You test vatiyashnehu al birkeha. She puts him to sleep on his lap. That's a very euphemistic way of discussing what happened in the privacy of their home. But he was ganz good asleep. Again, the opposite between Yoel and well, Yoel puts Sisro asleep to do something properly, and she's putting him to sleep for something not good. Vatikrali, she calls to the man. Vategalach esheva machlafos rosho, and he binds, he cuts off his 7 locks, his 7 braids of hair. Fatachal anosa, and she began to chepa him a little bit, bother him a little bit. He was still asleep, but she could tell Vayoser kocho me'alav, and his strength had already gone from him. And Radak explains everything in this pasuk. It says, and this is where the argument comes from. Radak says every time she put him to sleep. Again, there's an argument: did she put him to sleep the first 2 times or not? But every time she would kind of make sure to see if he was asleep. And similarly over here, that he was asleep, and she just tested him a little bit, while he's asleep, to see if she sees any strength. And she could begin to see, she sees that the strength isn't there. Okay, so let's continue. Pasuk. Let's check if there's anything else over here. No, we're good. Pasuk Chaf. Vatomer. So now she says, Plishtim alecha Shimshon. Shimshon, the Plishtim are attacking you. Vayikas bishnaso. He gets up from his sleep. Vayomer, he says, Eitzei kepam bepam. Vina air. I will go out like the other times. Vina care, and I will be aroused. Vina air, and I'll be aroused with a spirit of strength. He figures he can do it again. Lo yada, he didn't know ki Hashem sor me'alav, that Hashem had left him. He didn't know that Hashem had left him. So what's going on over here? So the Ratak again has a lot to say over here. He says he figured every time he got up from his sleep and he got strong, he figured he could do the same thing. But it says Lo yada, he didn't know. Now the question is, what do you mean he didn't know that he lost his strength? He told her that if you shave my hair off, I'm going to lose my strength. So if you lose your hair, don't you know you lost your strength?
Right.
He wakes up, didn't he notice he didn't have any hair?
No.
And like, what was he figuring? So that's the question that the Radak asks. So one answer he gives is he was asleep. So he when you wake up, those first few seconds you're awake, you're just not totally cognitively on the ball, right? Sometimes you wake up, you say, "Where am I?" So his normal response when he wakes up is, "Okay, my strength's going to come back. I'm going to get the plishtim." He could have forgotten just for a few seconds what he told her, just a little bit fuzzy, and he figured it's no different than the other times. He didn't remember and wasn't cognizant of the fact that his strength was gone. Didn't look in the mirror to see what's going on. He just jumped and was thinking about attacking plishtim as opposed to anything else. Now, it could be, I'm just thinking, it could be that, he was telling this thing that maybe figuring she would have brought a lot of plishtim. And maybe there would be plishtim to kill. Maybe, but she hid them very well, so he never wound up doing this. So I guess he always was poised. Okay, let her think I have no strength, and then she'll bring a lot of plishtim. I'll be able to kill a lot of plishtim. But this time he's going to figure, but it's not going to work. What else can you say in terms of lo yada? He doesn't know. It could be like this. He says he knew that his strength went away from him, but what did he not know? He didn't know that Hashem had left him. That's what he didn't know. The pasuk says, if you look carefully, lo yodea, right? Ki Hashem sor me'alav, Hashem left him. In other words, could be I even have my hair shorn off, and maybe the fact that I'm a nazir, I've lost that. But maybe Hashem will still help me. Hashem can always help. That even though my strength is gone, Hashem will help me, that I shouldn't fall into the hands of the plishtim. No different than when, by the story with the jawbone, when his strength all of a sudden was gone, and he davened to Hashem, and Hashem answered him. So Hashem could be with you even though you don't have the natural strength. So he felt that it could still be with him even under those circumstances.
Does it explain why Hashem left him?
Why did Hashem leave him? He breached the confidentiality. He was told you have to be a nazir. This is your protection. Again, this is the chut hasara, the very hairline error that he made. You have to make sure that your hair wasn't cut. Being a nazir will keep you away from trouble. And you have to keep that. And he didn't keep that. So, you have to be and he was very careful but to give away such a secret and to put himself open that it should happen, even though he didn't cut his hair. And you could say, well, he didn't cut his hair, somebody else cut his hair. So, at least, but he left himself open for such a thing. And to leave yourself open to such a thing, it was a big violation. Again, only for such a tzaddik could Hashem be so exacting. For people like us, Hashem wouldn't be so exacting. So, and again, he could have rationalized, even if they cut my hair off. I didn't cut my hair off. Right. But it seems that until this moment, Hashem was with him the whole time. Even after he married Delilah, after all the things he did in Gaza, all these things, it always had been with him. The only time it left him temporarily was with the incident with the jawbone, and then when he prayed, it was with him the entire time. And now that he gave this secret away, you see how much Hashem wanted from the Mashiach. The Mashiach has to be perfect. If you want to be a Mashiach, you got to be perfect. There can't be any room for any errors. Even the smallest error, your role in life was to be the Mashiach, and that was why I gave you everything I gave you. And now you breach that even in the smallest level. Well, once that happens, that's it. You're not going to be a Mashiach anymore, and I'm leaving you. So, what happens? Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Vayochazu Plishtim. The Plishtim grabbed hold of him, they got him. Vayenakru es Einov. And they poked his eyes out. Vayoridu oso azaza. Now, who knows, that might have been more than what his wife thought they were going to do, or whatever. But they poked his eyes out, which effectively renders him useless. No matter how strong you are, if you don't have eyes, we've not seen in history a blind person being a great warrior, as far as I know. Right? That's it. In other words, you never know. He might pop out a can of spinach and could get strong again, right? You can't take any chance. Right now he was, for whatever it was, cut his hair up, and the hair can grow back. Who knows? Maybe he has another bag of tricks. Who knows what this guy's got? But one thing's sure, when he's blind, he cannot harm us anymore.
Why would they just kill him?
They said they wouldn't kill her. They said to her.
They promised to her.
They promised they won't kill him. But you know what? They're going to do worse than kill him.
It's worse than
you can be sure what's coming up. It's going to be worse. Killing is the easiest thing. Once you're dead, you're dead. But the embarrassment, the denigration that they're going to make him go through in the next few verses, they want to have a little fun with him. So the best way to have some fun with him is you blind him. You have to remember, this was the powerful Shimshon. And now you've rendered him powerless, and now that he's blind, and now we can make a little fun with him. And that's what's going to happen in a minute. So they blind him, number one, and Vayoridu also Azazo. And now they take him to the city of Aza, which was not necessarily nearby. Vayasru Banechushtaim, and they tied him up in cables. Vayitochein Beveis Asurim, and he was, simple translation, a grinder in the prison house. He would run the mill. So what do you see from over here? Number one, the first thing you see is Hashem operated with him midah keneged midah, measure for measure. As the Gemara says, the original sin that he did years and years ago says, she is straight in my eyes. He sinned with his eyes, so he's punished with his eyes being poked out. That's number one. Again, a sin on his level, not on our level. Not on our level, looking at things we shouldn't look at. But on his level, he sinned with his eyes. What we said was, he assumed that he understood what to do without asking advice. Remember, the first thing, to go to Timnah and marry a Philistine woman, he didn't ask any advice. It was a bit of arrogance. So he went with his eyes. So Hashem got his eyes poked out, number one. Number two, the incident at the beginning of this parak, when he went to Aza and was with the Zona and then pulled out the gates, so that there was something questionable about that as well. So now he was brought back to Aza to suffer that great humiliation. So clearly, and Hashem doesn't do it, tit for tat. Hashem is doing it so that Shimshon should understand what his mistake was. Got to remember, Shimshon's making mistakes. You're not realizing what the mistake is. It's hard to do tshuva for it. In other words, what was the source of Why did Hashem leave him? What was so bad? He made some very, very minor mistakes, and Hashem was patient with him, hoping he would do tshuva on it. The minor mistake, not that he did anything wrong, just didn't ask. Didn't ask. That was the minor mistake. He would have to do tshuva on that. And the fact that he was in Asa as well. Maybe the thing he did in Asa with the woman also, maybe he should have asked. Be that as it may, so once he did those things, and finally he gave away the secret, that's it. Now you get punished measure for measure. It's interesting. Physically and spiritually, he got punished measure for measure. Physically, remember, he became helpless. He's now dependent on others. When you're blind, they didn't have the Institute for the Blind at that time, no seeing eye dogs, independent living. If you were blind, there's only one thing. Somebody, as we'll see in a minute, someone has to hold you by the hand and take you out. So he thought he had perfected his eyes so well and his desires so completely that he no longer needed Hashem's help in overcoming his evil inclination. And he doesn't have to ask advice from anybody what to do. I don't need any help. I can do it on my own. So the punishment is, no, now you're going to need, even just to walk, you're going to need help from somebody. That's how much you need help. And so that clearly, when Shimshon sees that he has to now be helped how to walk, he has to start thinking, boy, I'm so dependent now. What affair did I do that makes me so dependent now? Must be I felt I was so independent. I didn't need any of Hashem's help. I didn't need anybody's help. So he's beginning to see where the area of tshuva has to be. As well, on a spiritual measure, he lost the privilege of being obligated to do mitzvahs. We know, we paskin, a blind person is not obligated in doing mitzvahs. If he does them, he'll get rewarded, but he's not obligated. You can't expect a blind person, a blind man, to put on tefillin necessarily, to go to shul. Certainly like that. A blind person is free from mitzvahs. You do it, you can get rewarded, but it's not the same reward as someone who is sighted and is commanded to do the mitzvah. And other things as well. But
when you say it's not the same reward, you mean less or more?
Less reward, because only a person who's commanded to do a mitzvah gets a greater reward. Okay. The one who's commanded has more anxiety to make sure he should do the will of Hashem. If you're not commanded, it's always easy to do a mitzvah. If you don't have to do it, it's not a problem. You know, people like to volunteer, but when you're told to do it, all of a sudden I don't want to do it. There's a Yetzer Hara. When there is a mitzvah operating, then all of a sudden the Yetzer Hara says, don't do it. If there's no mitzvah, if you don't have to, the Yetzer Hara doesn't bother you with this. You know, there's a certain desire to do something that you're not told to do. All of a sudden you have to do something. He says, why should I do what he told me to do? And so they have to overcome that Yetzer Hara. You get rewarded for that. So Shimshon could no longer be rewarded as a Jew who's commanded to do a mitzvah. So, but clearly Hashem did not overlook what happened over there. Now, he was a grinder. He was grinding. So what's going on with the grinding over here? So there's two pshatim the Radak says, which is very interesting. Number one, they say this was the common practice you did with the enemy that was captured. A prisoner, what are you going to do with a prisoner? So here in Ontario, he makes license plates, right? I mean, you got to get something out of these guys. They're very humane over here. But over there, what do you do with a prisoner? You have him run the millstone. You know, put him to good use. A. B. It's certainly very denigrating to have him run the millstone. But then the rabbis bring a very interesting comment. This is unbelievable. He says the word tochain, to grind, there is an expression that is used in the book of Eov of grinding my wife. Meaning the idea, it's an allusion to intimacy. Allusion to intimacy. And the rabbis say that every one of the Philistines, they brought their wives to Shimshon to cohabit with him, to get pregnant and have a child from him. It's like a stud.
Wow.
You know, a stud, a horse. You know, what do you do with a horse that wins the Triple Crown in racing? What do they do in their retirement?
Yeah.
You produce a lot more kids. You know, there were horses that were Einiklach, you know, grandchildren of thoroughbred winners who became thoroughbred winners themselves.
Is this speculation? Is this a fact?
It's a Gemara. The Chazal say this.
But when he was willing to do that?
So you have to see about this. So So, in other words, the Philistines want to have strong people. He's got good genes, man.
Okay, I can understand.
We're gonna get nice Philistine boys with the daddy's genes that will be strong to kill Jews, right? So Radak doesn't like that shot. He says, "What does it help? He's lost his strength already." But Radak, can argue, but still, that is the push-up shot. And just because he lost his strength because his hair got cut, so these guys won't cut their hair. I don't understand the Radak's problem. He lost his strength because the hair was cut. But if the hair would grow back, obviously, then he'd be strong again. So let's have kids from this guy, and we'll have lots of strong Philistines to kill Jews. It's the great revenge we could take on the Jews from this guy. Unbelievable. Now, you see a lot from this. You see, once the tzaddik falls, he can fall a lot more, because there is one thing you got to realize. It's kind of unusual. It's very possible for a man to take advantage of a woman, but it's impossible for a woman to take advantage of a man. A man can only, as they say, rise to the occasion if he wants to. A woman, she can't defend herself. Someone wants to rape a woman, she can't stop it. How can you rape a man? You can't rape a man. The guy will say, I'm not going to do it. Right? So what are they going to threaten to kill him? So he says, kill me. Must be it's something that he wanted to do. So either you're going to say he totally became immoral, and this is what eventually happened to him, while Reb Tzadok looks on it a little bit differently. He says this is more of an Avera Lishma. This is a sin for the sake of heaven. And his agenda, like Yael, was intimate with Sisera, was similar. Why? He wanted to bring more, more, the Plishtim were terrible people, and gave them more opportunity, more rope to hang on, so they can go further into immorality, so Hashem would want to destroy them. You want to take advantage of me. In other words, see how low you guys are. That you want to take advantage of me, and you want to do such terrible things. So I'll give you the opportunity to do that. So Hashem will see all the averis that you're willing to do. And then, there's a concept called Nismala Hasa. The idea is, you've filled your fill of sin. Hashem, Plishtim were pretty terrible people. Why does Hashem destroy the Plishtim? Well, they haven't yet filled their quota of evil. You have this idea, you can have, in school a kid's bad. You have to come to the point where the straw that breaks the camel's back. They've not yet gone to the straw that breaks the camel's back. So Shimon says, look how they want to degrade me. I could not let that happen. Or I could let them degrade me. And now that will be more negative things on their docket that they'll be punished for. So Tzadok says, he's allowing them to be as bad as they want to be. And that will obviously, in heaven, be held against them. Very intriguing what happened over there. Okay, let's continue. So, Pasuk Chavches, but Vayochal Sarosho Litzameach Kasher Gulach. But his hair began to grow just as his hair was cut off. Just as his hair was cut off. Which is kind of hinting to us that the salvation could yet come. Because the hair is beginning to grow. So, which kind of says that even if a person sins and falls, there's the ability to come back from the sin. And therefore, you can see Hashem's already helping him. And according to Reb Tzadok, if you say he sinned for the sake of a holy purpose, we can say that Hashem's already helping him, and the hair is growing back. Now what's very interesting is, wait a minute, if you know that the secret of his strength is his hair, why are they letting it grow back? The answer is Hashem did a little miracle of it. Look carefully what it says. It says his hair grew back, kasher gulach, just as it had been shaven. You figure give a guy a haircut at least a couple days before the hair grows back. 3-4 days till some stubble, something doesn't grow back that day. Yeah. So they figure, okay, we'll take a look at him in a couple days and we'll keep shaving him every 3-4 days, whatever. But Hashem had the stubble grow back immediately. So already the ability for that strength to come back was beginning to show itself in the first stages. And what he's going to do in the rousing conclusion, we'll save for next Tuesday.